I want to send love to anyone who is really feeling the depths of darkness, really feeling a lack of optimism, a lack of faith, to remember that you being here right now is enough. Whether you take actions that are big, whether they're small, whether you focus on breathing, you're helping the world just by slowing down, by trying to be more centered and grounded within yourself first. You are helping the world exponentially. There's so many people who are struggling, and they just need more grounded and anchored people in the world so that there's less people making decisions from reactivities. We're all part of this wide collective, and we all play a role in the energetic setting of that collective. So just by centering yourself, by grounding yourself, feeling in alignment yourself, you change the energetic ocean of the collective. Yes, in this particle world where we see each other as separate, but we've discovered that we're also energetic beings. There's been the lies told to us that we're separate beings, and it's supported capitalism to do all this marketing so that we can focus a little bit more on just the self on a superficial material level. But at the end of the day, we're all interconnected. And so just by centering yourself, just by grounding yourself, you are setting the world up for success, for blossoming, for expansion. Hey you, I'm Anissa. Welcome to Create to Liberate. Today's video is about finding purpose amidst political disillusionment, or just witnessing war, political leaders working in not supportive ways to the collective well-being. And I think during these times, I know I've been personally impacted and gone through this cycle of emotion, and maybe you have too, and you're tuning in because you want to feel hopeful and you also want to feel purposeful in moving through the world. And so if that resonates with you, then definitely stick around. As always, I share wisdom from my own lived experience, as I believe we're all each other's mirrors. We provide a mirror to each other to be able to see ourselves more clearly and hopefully empower each other. If you enjoy what I say, amazing. Hit the like button. And if you don't enjoy what I say, as always, take what you need and leave the rest. If you're listening on audio, a 5-star review is so welcome and appreciated. Without further ado, let's get into it. So we're going to get into the current political climate is, at this time that I'm recording today's episode, finding meaning beyond politics for ourselves as individuals, which is so important. Connecting with your values and actually taking some actions, big or small, to move forward. So at this time of recording, it is June 18th, 2025, and I live in Los Angeles, California. So over a week ago, Trump created a military presence in Los Angeles to try to remove more immigrants from this city, and also just to create a bit of chaos. And it wasn't received well. It also wasn't legal. And when we have a president of a democracy, when he acts in militant ways or acts more like a dictator, it's disheartening. It's concerning. Now's a time at which a lot of people are being shown the truth of this political leader's character, who's made unconstitutional moves. Additionally, on a global level, just last week, the Iranian-Israeli conflict began. And I don't want to get into too much detail, nor am I the best relayer of information, but what I can do is share with you the reflections I've had from these experiences. So when it comes to the political state, it's not just politics, right? It's fun when it is just politics, when it is just conceptual, theoretical, bills being passed and contemplated. And it's really different when it starts impacting people's lives, when it starts impacting people's well-being, sense of safety, when folks are being displaced. Then it's a crisis. And it's unfortunate that this is happening right now. And so I think one of the biggest things to tune into is the acknowledgement of the suffering going on. If you're not immediately impacted, even if you're indirectly impacted, even if you're not impacted at all, it's okay to feel the cycles of emotion that come from understanding other people's suffering. Because we have so much social media awareness, we're very tapped in. It can feel like we're in this fight or flight response, even when it's not our own suffering that's going on. I also think on an energetic collective level, we're all interconnected. And so the rise in the level of stress and tensions and grief and suffering also impacts us. We are not separate from the ocean. We are all just waves within an ocean, or a drop of water within this larger collective ocean. And so know that you're still allowed to have an emotional response to the events of this time. Despite the urgency of some of these changes, oftentimes we don't have much power in the immediate to make political decisions. And so if you're finding yourself constantly tuning into the news every single half hour or less, if you're scrolling and just reading headlines and ingesting so much information, know that that's also contributing to your nervous system's regulated state. And it's beautiful to stay informed. It's actually so powerful, but you have to find a cadence at which allows you to also feel empowered. So rather than just staying inundated in consumption of information and news, we do need to take that space from the political climate to center ourselves, to ground ourselves, and also understand what we can do to contribute back. And so I really am excited to get into what you can do to feel less powerless and more purposeful during this time. Before I finish around the political climate, I'm going to speak about how it impacted me and how I came to share this episode with you. So I definitely got through my cycles of emotional spiral when it came to the state of LA particularly. I entered anger, felt a lot of anger for the injustice. I felt a lot of rage because the United States was built on the backs of immigrants, and most of us all here are immigrants unless you're Native American or more native to this land. Even still, you've been processed and treated like an immigrant, and you know what it feels like to be on the side of the enemy in the United States. And the more that we continue othering people, the more divided this state's become. It's not united whatsoever. It's actually a time at which this country has such a heightened level of tensions and division. It doesn't really align with what the whole marketing scheme was, and maybe it never did. And so that can be also disillusioning, disheartening to feel like you stood for the written morals, the marketing, the movies around the United States, but the truth of what the United States perpetuates within the country and outside of the country especially has created more harm than help, maybe. From that feeling of anger, I noticed that I went into this state of exhaust, state of like powerlessness, and that's never helpful, right? There's so much power in our anger and being able to transmute it into action, into purpose, into doing energy. But when we kind of just stay in that creative tension ultimately, then we're not able to move into creative output, into sharing, speaking our voices, doing things. There's such a power in that harbored anger, and I actually love all of emotions. I believe that anger has such a powerful purpose when it's transmuted into creative energy, into Shakti energy, into expression, doing, being, existing, and letting that energy move into the world, hopefully in a healthy way, not through more acts of violence, but through more acts of love, helpfulness, etc. If you're needing to just really sink into the energy of love, I put together a guided meditation to release our hatred and to love the enemy. You can find the link here. It is one that came to me because I had this immediate reaction of, wow, this guy, he who shall not be named, is truly inhabited by dark energies and entities. There is the powerful transmutation energy of love that is a true vibration that does create healing, and it doesn't hurt to heal yourself in the process, because when we express and live in hatred, we actually create a poison within us, and we think that we're hurting the other person. We're usually just creating less harm to ourselves. We can create a lot more levity and healing within our own bodies to move forward and move through the world in a way that feels empowered, and we feel expressed, we feel purposeful. So it comes to finding your purpose among this political climate of volatility. This is a forever practice. It doesn't matter what's going on in the world. The external circumstances are always going to be volatile. They're always going to be ups and downs, and it depends on whose perception you're basing this off of. So right now, things in the Middle East have been, in my opinion, extremely volatile and low. And there's been so many opportunities to speak out about injustices, etc. But maybe you haven't found your avenue in. It doesn't impact you directly, but always in life we have opportunities for us to figure out, how do we want to support people in our lives? What do people come to you to receive most often? So I found my voice as more of a storyteller and an idealist, but there's folks who are activists, There's people who are on the front lines. There's informers. There's people, informers are so helpful because when it comes to like news and sharing media coverage, etc., informers are just like on the ball. So impressive to me, so studied. Folks who are healers, that's so needed for people to be able to receive an energetic healing after they go through this cycle of fighting the good fight and burnout. Maybe you're more of a warrior. Maybe you are interested in being a part of a physical front. We're all so unique in our gifts and our abilities, and it's so important to remember what people have appreciated from you in this lifetime, what you've enjoyed personally sharing to others in this lifetime, because there's so many ways to be in service. And our ways are going to look different from others. And if we continually compare our way of giving to other people's ways of giving, then we're not going to feel enough. We're going to continue battle with this feeling of inadequacy. Maybe somebody's a billionaire and they make substantial donations. It's like they can make this huge monetary donation, but you, maybe in your position, can donate your time in a small way. That's also hugely supportive. When it comes to finding your purpose as well, what are your personal values? Looking at people that you've admired in history or even in the present to understand what you've admired about them, the ways that they've shown up, helps give some insight. So while somebody might like this Instagram creator who is able to do these amazing carousels and update folks on self-care during times of political crisis, you might appreciate that, but maybe you also appreciate an MLK. And is there a world in which there's room for you to trial these different modes of expression and activism? Because oftentimes we don't know until we do, right? So we can stay in the cycle of ideation. Oh, I could be doing this, or I should be doing it. Just trial some and see what sticks for you, what lands for others. We allow ourselves permission to play, to have some creativity, to enjoy experimentation. There's ways that you can trial this also at a smaller scale versus the larger scale. For instance, you're interested in supporting people on a one-on-one capacity. You know that you're really amazing emotional support when people are going through these cycles of grief. Maybe they lost a loved one in warfare, and you're like, maybe I could be a psychotherapist. Maybe I could. You can spend time with a friend one-on-one, supporting a friend, and you can try to better understand, wait, do I like this dynamic of supporting people one-on-one? Has this been something that's worked for them, worked for me? Maybe I do want to enroll in school and actually dedicate myself to becoming a licensed psychotherapist. That's one example. There's obviously the other example of becoming more of a community organizer, becoming more of a on the ground activist, and have a trial of that experience. Maybe you've experienced supporting canvassing at some point. How can you trial all of these life experiences on a small local level before you expand wide and make a huge declaration to dedicate your life to one avenue? Because I think that's often what people want, and why there's so much hesitance for us to just take some small actions and take some steps forward, is because we think that we have to save the world on a individual level. But actually, if everybody contributes a little bit to the bucket of moving people towards a more healthy, healed, loving world, that is huge. That is massive change. There's no archetype within the ways that you can help that is to be the savior. The world doesn't need any more individual saviors. We need to actually all have more group and collective participation in the world. It would also make people feel so much healthier. There's so much of a anxiety and stress that comes from our feeling of not doing. So just by doing a little, maybe we can relish in more of that, and doing a little more, and then we can relish in more of that, and keep doing, and notice how that also gives us energy back. Now we're going to get into connecting with your core values. So during this time, I actually have to admit that it made me feel pretty good to feel a sense of purpose. Even through these times of suffering, I get to feel purposeful. And that's because I also know my mission statement, which is create to liberate. I want to create things that open hearts and minds. I want to speak truth into the world. I want to share more love. And as long as I do things that I think and hope are supporting people's collective liberation to feel more expanded, expressed, it supports my inner well-being. It supports other people. But you got to find your own mission statement. This is mine. You can't have it. Just kidding. Anybody can have it. It's actually really funny because it came to me around 2017, Create to Liberate. It was a download from the divine, and then you get more along your spiritual journey and you realize that a lot of us receive the same exact light language, which is love and liberate, peace and love and pancakes. And so you can definitely have this one, but I think it's valuable for you to find your own mission statement that helps you wake up in the morning feeling more purposeful. What is that specifically for you? And then repeating it to yourself as an affirmation. Again and again, when you start to doubt yourself, you start to question, oh, am I doing enough in the world? Like, what's the point of living? Why am I? And you start getting too existential, come back to that mission statement. You know why you're here. You have a clear purpose. Because everybody, in my belief, that incarnated onto this planet has a purpose. You don't know how big or small it is, but a mission statement definitely helps anchor you. Sometimes it's hard to understand our values until we see what we do not align with. Understanding your values, what do you really value? Is it personal freedom in this lifetime? Therefore, you want other people to have the experience of personal freedom in this lifetime. Do you deeply value self-expression? Then you might deeply desire for other people to be able to use their voices to experience freedom of speech. When you deeply value presence in this lifetime, then maybe you deeply value people who are able to live a life where they get to savor the present moment more. You don't want to see a world in which people are just running around like chickens with their heads cut off. You want them to not be in survival mode, not be in this state of suffering. You want more people to experience their own liberation and self-actualization in this lifetime. I know I do. Writing down your actual values and reinforcing to yourself that you have them also makes you feel more empowered during this time. The opposite of love, in my belief, is not hate, it's indifference. When we start to get numb, when we start to get disillusioned, when we start to detach overly from the present moment, from the reality of other people's suffering, that's not really a great state to be in. That's not really living. We came into this human experience to feel our emotions, the good ones and the bad ones. Bad. The hardship, the suffering, and the joy, and the love. We've meant to be here and feel all of it and experience all of it. And what is often the attempt when we remove ourselves from reading the news completely or tuning into other people's suffering is we try to remove ourselves from feeling. We're actually working to escape feeling. And we can never escape that. When we numb ourselves, it's just festering inside of us into our subconscious and unconscious. It's still becoming repressed within our bodies. It'll show up as dis-ease, among other things. Taking actions big or small might mean all of those small acts of kindness that you can perform. You know, smiling at a person creates a ripple effect of joy. Thanking people, sharing appreciation for people is a small, kind act. How can you be more of a stance of love and light in this world? And yes, I can talk about donating to causes and making volunteer time, and all of those things are so important. And then it's also in your day-to-day. How are you spending your money? Are you spending money on things that make you feel like you're supporting the world that you would like to see? Maybe we have to make more conscious decisions around who we give money to during this time. I'm definitely moving towards this. It might support you to also find people who are like-minded and surround yourself with more of what they're up to, because that helps inspire and maintain our levels of enthusiasm and idealism, even when we feel down, even when we feel like we're not doing enough. Spiritually, personally, I always think it's valuable to zoom out into the wider cosmic lens of your existence. I have experienced that we are experiencing a little bit of entirety. So we get to experience this human experience, and we signed up for it, knowing that it came with a lot of suffering, but knowing that that suffering also came with a slice of love, a substantial piece of love, actually, and suffering is a little side dish, hopefully. And the more love that you accumulate in life, the more people that you love, the more richness your life has, but also the more side dishes of suffering, grieving, loss. Going through that is also part of the human experience. It wasn't just to be here and stay in a blissful state. It was also to know that you're going to be impacted with some difficulties and that other people are going to be challenged. And how can you maintain a level of regulation through that? How can you master your emotions? How can you master your mind state? How can you stay more regulated so that you can have a perspective of light and love to share with other people? How can you be a positive, infectious force on this planet? How can you actually create more a world that meets your ideals? How can you be okay surrendering that even if you don't see it in this lifetime, that it maybe happened, maybe you impacted somebody, maybe you made somebody's life better? With things in Iran, with the state of the US moving away from democracy, it can feel really heavy. It can feel like we're in the cycle of powerlessness, of overthrow. It can be easy to spiral. And when we end up in these spirals, what we don't do is take a lesson that allows us to ascend a little bit more, to have a wider perspective even on the circumstances, to make different choices. Because when we take this zoomed out perspective, whether we just take time to meditate a little bit more deeply each morning and ground ourselves, we focus on sharing more love to more people because we know that the world needs it more. These moments of darkness actually can anchor us more into the light. It doesn't have to take darkness showing its face for us to anchor into the light, but I know that it's been a positive catalyst for me to double down. I know that it's helped me to not read news headlines on repeat every single morning and actually focus on my meditation practice first. I know that it's helped me to have some resistance, to notice the contrast between what I do value and what I do not value. I'm sending you so much love in the days ahead, and grounding within yourself and really knowing that you are meant to be here, that you are of purpose, that you can be a purposeful contributor by being yourself, by managing your energy, your time, your thoughts, your mind, your heart. If you enjoyed this, hit the like button, subscribe if you're listening on audio, give a 5-star review. I appreciate you being here.